Get ready for the intense drama of fair play. When a sudden promotion shakes up a young couple's world, their relationship faces its toughest test yet. Will love conquer all? A girl smoking a cigarette alone in the corner of a party before a guy takes her to his uncle, Jay, and introduces her as Emily, uncle. Jay remarks that Mr. Ivy League has the best-looking girl in the room, to which the man says she's got other things going for her as well, so he tells her to inform him if he gives her any trouble. Their friend, Theo, suddenly appears and drags them away, remarking that love wears off. The man tells him to go find his bride and kiss her before she realizes that she's messed her whole life up. Once he's gone, Emily tells him to stop harassing his brother as they slowly start dancing. He silently takes her to a corner where she asks if he's just going to keep staring at her. He assures her that he's just going to stare at her and gives her a light peck. As the two stumble into a washroom, he tells her to lock the door and promises to be quick. They suddenly stop upon realizing that he's got blood on his face. He quickly starts washing his face before she suddenly notices something on the ground and asks what it is in shock. Stunned, he starts nervously laughing and goes to his knees. He slowly picks up the ring lying on the ground and asks if she'd like to marry him. She slowly says he's drunk, to which he answers that he was sober when he bought it and kisses her. He assures her that he loves her a lot and she means everything to him, remarking that they'll do it right if they do this. He tentatively asks what she thinks and she agrees before they start smiling and kiss each other again. He accidentally puts the ring on her wrong finger and fixes it before they jump out the window, but she accidentally loses her shoe. He picks her up and remarks that they look like they're fleeing a crime scene, hoping they don't get arrested. An alarm rings later at 4 a.m. in the night, and the two wake up, happily acknowledging that they're getting married. She texts her mom that they're getting married, and the two get dressed before leaving. As they're walking, he asks if she needs anything from the corner store, but she says she's good, and the two head off in different directions. Reaching her office, she walks into the elevator, which the man enters as well and formally acknowledges her, questioning how her weekend was before the two head into their offices and start working, completely ignoring each other. Later, as Emily is in a meeting, she suddenly sees her boss angrily smashing his desk before being carried away by the other co-workers. She later goes over to her fiancé and says she heard he was taking over for the last boss, Quinn. He's surprised by this, so she reveals that the guys overheard it on a call before walking away. Later, as the two are taking a bath, she assures him that she wasn't joking, hearing which he wonders how he got so lucky, so she asks if he's talking about her or the job. He asks if she's jealous about it, which she denies and says if she had to choose between him and the promotion, she'd think about it a bit and choose the promotion. She tells him that they're going to have to tell the others since they're getting married, admitting that she's going to be judged more. He asks if that means this is a good time to disclose to the others that they're breaking company policy, so she wearily says she'd rather tell them before someone else finds out. He says they can do whatever they want once they move up, and they decide to not have more work talk. Later at night, her phone suddenly starts ringing, so she wearily remarks that it's Rory's call. As she picks up, Rory tells her to meet him at the Golden Room. Her fiancé tells her to not go, but she remarks that she has to. She reaches the Golden Room and heads inside to unexpectedly run into Campbell, who dismissively tells her that Rory's gone home. She cautiously takes a seat as he says she's not just navigating the box, she's running circles around it and Rory can't keep up with her. He says she made half the big calls last quarter alone, and that it must be exhausting for a bird to have to run a mile, so she shouldn't. Later, Emily slowly returns to the apartment where her fiancé asks what happened. She says it was nothing and reveals that she met Campbell, hearing which he stands up and angrily asks if he tried anything or attempted to touch her. She insists nothing like that happened, so he urges her to just tell him what the hell's going on here, so she nervously says she's being promoted to PM and is taking over for Rory. Surprised, he congratulates her and says that's amazing, so she starts apologizing, but he quickly hugs her and says he's really happy for her. She walks into her new office the next day and her co-worker congratulates her, remarking that he always knew she'd get here and assuring her that if he's ever been tough on her, it's only because he cares before leaving. She worryingly looks over at Luke working outside and later assigns him his work at their meeting. At night, she slowly smokes a cigarette and receives a call from her mom who says she's wanted to congratulate her and insists that work can wait since you don't get engaged every day. Emily says she hopes she didn't tell anyone, so her mom asks how long they're going to have to keep this act up. She answers that she doesn't know and just asks her to not tell anyone, considering it an early wedding present. Her mom tells her to not be so paranoid because no one cares what she does, so she frustratingly tells her mom that she doesn't know what these guys are like, disclosing the fact that she got promoted so she'll be in trouble if they find out that she's dating her analyst. Surprise! Her mom remarks that this is a wonderful week for good news and tells her husband, Gary, to get over here and congratulate his daughter. Returning home, Emily tries calling Luke, but he doesn't pick up and it goes to voicemail. As he's having a drink, she approaches him and asks if she can buy him another, so he asks if that's because she's earning more than him now. She acknowledges that it's like that, but he assures her that he's kidding. He lightly kisses her and says they should celebrate, declaring that he's really proud of her. He orders another round for himself and a vodka for the lady, asking her how she's feeling, to which she admits she's still processing it, so he tells her to embrace it, remarking that it's really exciting before they have a drink. He slowly confirms if Campbell tried anything, but she denies this and says she would have told him if he did, which he agrees to and apologizes. Emily receives a notification and cheerily says her mom's already started planning the wedding and asks if his parents are annoying him, but he reveals that he hasn't told them yet, telling her that he's just going to settle up and get the check actually. She says she's going to help him with the next promotion, but he assures her that it's okay and asks her to not be worried about him, questioning who knows when the next one's going to happen. She says she does and explains that it seemed like Campbell was on the chopping block by the way he was talking about Rory, so she can help him take the spot if they play their cards right. He acknowledges that he appreciates it, but he can make it on his own, so she argues that doesn't mean she can't help, admitting that the situation isn't what they expected, but it shouldn't have to stay that way for long, because she really thinks they can turn the situation in their favor and find a way to move him up in the next opportunity. He says she doesn't have to, so she says she wants to and will highlight his trade recs to Campbell and will give him credit where Quinn never has. At work, she gives Luke some files and tells him to look into this and tell her what he thinks. He says he's already doing the 3 from before, so she orders him to make this one a priority. He questions if she still wants this by the end of the day, so she asks him whether he wants this or not. Later, she tries appreciating Luke in front of Campbell, but he reveals that his last unicorn cost him $15 million and says a friend of his pushed him into the company, so it'll be easier for them both if he just decides to quit on his own. So she says he's valuable to her, but Campbell remarks that he'll get the message. They all do. Emily returns home and says her keys aren't working, so he tells her that she's using the wrong one. She wearily gets inside and remarks that they should just open a bar for finances before getting herself something to eat. She apologizes for how Campbell cut him down, so he dismissively tells her she's fine since the loss was Quinn's call, not his, but he knows it isn't personal. She walks towards him and starts massing his shoulders, saying he knows it's a lot of money for a pat on the back, to which he admits that it's probably a waste and tells her that she has sauce all over his face, so she tells him to be a gentleman and lick it off for her. He says it's gotten late, so she tells him that she'll do all the work, but he wishes her a good night and walks away. Sitting in a seminar, he annoyingly notices Emily cheerily talking with a bunch of executives and walks off to get himself coffee, but she approaches him and reveals that she got a table at La Mer at 8 since Campbell gave it to her, remarking that money isn't as fun unless you spend it on the people you love. He asked her if she's sure they should risk being seen at a place like that, so she teasingly says she's allowed to buy her analyst some dinner to discuss investments. He says he still has 3 statements to get through that he put aside to focus on the one from before, so she asked if he can't do it tomorrow, but he says he has to step up after last night by not putting more on his plate. She apologizes and remarks that she thought it would help, but he says it didn't and he's behind on work before leaving. He boss from before appears behind her and says his lips are sealed, remarking that he's seen how she looks at her and won't tell a soul, but she just annoyingly walks away and has dinner alone later at night while Luke keeps working. At night, she arrives home and announces that she brought him some desserts, but he says he's fine. They start jokingly arguing with each other before he mentions her appearance, and she snatches his book and reads it aloud, asking if there's anything wrong with the way she dresses, so he remarks that appearance is everything and asks how she expects people to take her seriously when she dresses like a cupcake. At work, Luke advises Emily to make a deal, which she agrees to, but upon returning, he informs her that they shockingly lost 25 million, hearing which she angrily returns to her office and informs Campbell that she'll make up for it. Meanwhile, Luke angrily remarks that needs a big win fast and approaches Emily while she's drinking, as she angrily says she's become a joke after one wrong move, but he reassuringly says Paul lost 30 million at Square last month, but he made up for it with Blink and they'll do that too. He asks if she remembers Ben from Goldman and discloses that he works at Icon now, and he heard a rumor, so he called Ben to find out if it was true, and Ben gave him a guarantee that the CEO is about to step down, so if they short 50, they can at least make up for the 15%. She says that's not how she wants to make up for the fund, so he tells her to not worry since there's enough talk online and has basically become public knowledge at this point. But she angrily says she doesn't care and won't play with fire after today, so he frustratingly asks how else she intends to make up for the funds. She reveals that she was looking into shorting Spear, but he tells her that it's twice as risky since they have a London ruling coming up, admitting it's his mess and asking her to let him fix it. At home, Emily reads the rumors of Icon's CEO, stepping down, and frustratingly walks towards Luke before throwing away his book and telling him that they need to do it right now to celebrate their engagement, so they start intensely kissing each other and fall onto the bed before he angrily detaches himself as she receives a call from Campbell and convinces him to move to a short position on Spear when London opens. She wakes up later at night and happily sees that her guess worked. Confidently walking into the office, she heads into her office where Campbell slowly admits he should take back his comments from the other day, and his assistant hands her a letter saying Campbell hopes she accepts her apology and telling her that the commission is to her liking, as she sees that it's $75,000. She later texts Luke and says they should get out of the apartment tonight before the other executives approach her and ask if she wants to head out for drinks since she had a big day tonight, which she agrees to. They head to a club where she twitchily keeps getting bored by the others and calls over the matron. Luke suddenly wakes up at night and opens the door to see a heavily intoxicated Emily, who starts rambling about New York as he notices her check. She tries seducing him, but he annoyingly walks away, so she calls him pathetic. Hearing this, he angrily says she doesn't look like one of those big shot executives. She looks like the hooker they paid to keep them company before walking off. At work, Luke notices that Rory's being fired and tells Emily that she needs to pitch him to Campbell now. She remarks that an apology would be effective before asking for a favor since the comment from last night didn't sit right with her. He says this is time sensitive, so she remarks that so are her feelings. She says she's tried before, but he won't budge and has put a target on Luke's back, but there are other firms too. He angrily says she should be the one leaving her job because he wants this firm and won't be quitting. She angrily says that maybe this firm doesn't want him, so he rushes into Campbell's office and asks to be given 60 seconds, revealing how much he was inspired by him before even getting on his knees. A man enters and is about to inform Campbell of something, but he introduces him as Derek, their new PM, to Luke and asks if he's got anything to get off of his chest. Returning home, Emily sees an empty bottle of vodka lying on the floor and tells Luke that she still thinks they can do something if they send his resume to the Avenue, before angrily going to pick up a call from her mom, who tells her to keep Friday night free since she's going to give her and Luke a little engagement party. Stunned, Emily tells her that they're not ready to celebrate yet and tells her that Luke hasn't even told his parents about it yet. Her mom angrily asks what the hell she's saying and tells her to not punish her if she's in a bad mood because she's trying to do something nice for her, as Luke is looking for something. Emily angrily asks him what he's doing, so he asks her if she's seen the notes from his books and says they weren't trash, angrily telling her that she might as well have just thrown away his career. Hearing this, she furiously says this stuff is messing with his head, to which he remarks that it's easy for her to say when she had everything handed down to her. She declares that she didn't have anything handed to her before receiving a call, but he snatches it out of her hands and tells her to establish boundaries because she's done with work now. She questions who he is, so he asks what she's doing and if someone else would get on calls with Campbell till 2 in the morning, telling her that he's stepping all over her because he knows she can't refuse and is weak. She says the only one who steps all over is him, so he questions what she means and declares that he's been nothing but supportive from the start and has given her a lot of advice, but she corrects him by saying it was advice she never even asked for. He shouts that she stole his job because it was supposed to be him, but she reveals that they were all just rumors because Campbell told her that he intended to fire him because he's weak. At work, she sees that he didn't come and later finds out that their parents are coming the next day for their party, so she calls him and profusely apologizes for coming off as so ungrateful, asking him to just call her back so that they can talk it out. At the office, Luke's co-worker asks when he'll come back and says he's buried with work. At a meeting, she seems preoccupied, but starts pitching their plan and strategy to the client before noticing that Luke finally returned to work. Keeping an eye on him, she slowly starts stammering before Luke aggressively rushes into the room to make himself some coffee, but spills it all and starts angrily shouting at Campbell, warning him that he'll run his damn company to the ground as the others hurriedly try calling for security. He declares that the people working for Campbell don't even care about him and reveals the fact that his PM has been sleeping with her analyst for the past 2 years before furiously rushing out of the room. As Emily's later exiting the office, she furiously sends Luke a voicemail telling him to go ahead if he wants to sabotage his career, but she won't let him drag her down as well. She sends him a message in her house as well, telling him to break it up with her to her face if he wants to, and as she's on her way to the engagement party, she calls Luke's brother to inquire about him and tell him that his brother is a goddamn psychopath. At the party, she rushes straight towards him and asks what he thinks he's doing, so he remarks that it'd be a shame if he didn't come when his mother worked so hard for this party. Jane approaches them and congratulates them both for becoming PMs, but Emily says that isn't the case because he was working for her until she decided to fire him. She keeps arguing with Luke and tells him to inform everyone that they're breaking up before smashing the beer bottle down on her head and rushing away into the restroom. They start furiously arguing with one another before he pins her to the wall, and she angrily exclaims that she hates him. The two start aggressively kissing, and he slams her into the sink and starts doing it with her as she tells him to stop. Once they're done, she heads home and meets with Campbell the next day, telling him that Luke had been stalking her for the past year, but she didn't reveal that to anyone out of fear of what he would do. He accepts this and says it doesn't matter for her career because the guys over at Human Resources will cover it all up with their story. She sees someone else taking his position at the firm and sees him sitting in the living room upon returning home. He slowly tells her that he's asked the moving company to take care of this stuff and that he'll be moving somewhere else for now since a guy his brother knows has agreed to give him seed money for his own firms, but Emily angrily says she doesn't care and stabs him with a kitchen knife, telling him to beg for forgiveness, so he pathetically starts crying and asks her to forgive him, but she tells him to wipe the blood off her floor and get out because she's done with him now. Thanks for joining us in the gripping world of fair play. If you enjoyed the roller coaster of emotions, don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay tuned for more drama,